Hello, this is Aram Hamparian, speaking to you from the ANCA in Washington, D.C. Just returned a few moments ago from the White House, where Kate Nahabedian, our Government Affairs Director, and I met with officials of the National Security Council regarding the President's upcoming April 24th statement. I'll get right to the point. Very quickly, we learned that the President's April 24th statement, while it has not been entirely finalized, will be consistent with his previous statements, which, more to the point, means it will be inconsistent and will be at odds with his own pledges, his own promises he brought with him to the White House. Bottom line, the President, as far as we can understand from his senior aides, will not appropriately recognize or properly recognize the Armenian Genocide, as he had promised to do repeatedly during his campaign for office. We obviously are disappointed by that. It represents a retreat by this president from the values that we hold as Americans, and ultimately it diminishes America far more than it does our community or our cause. It is a poor reflection on the U.S. government that we have this spectacle of Turkey giving a dictate, and the U.S. government going along, caving in, bowing down to a foreign dictator. Recep Erdogan gets to write U.S. policy on the Armenian Genocide. U.S. policymakers, in turn, outsourcing our morality, our policy, our stand on genocide to Recep Erdogan, a man who is anti-democratic, who is corrupt, who is gross violator of human rights. It is really just a terrible, terrible step, the 8th in a row by this president. Really a very negative thing, but let me tell you, our cause and our community is bigger than Barack Obama. It's bigger than any president or any government. We're going to press forward. We are going to continue our fight for the recognition of the genocide, but more importantly, for reparations for that crime, the restoration of the Armenian homeland, the return of all that was taken. What can't be returned needs to be compensated. The Armenian nation needs to be made whole, and we will continue. So we are right now drafting a statement that we'll share on our website, we'll share on our Facebook page and through Twitter and other social media platforms. But I do want to read you what we have. Those of us who are active on social media and those of you who follow the ANC on Facebook, we certainly wanted you to be among the first to hear what we think. We know now through the President's advisors what he thinks and what he will say, and more importantly what he won't say. And now it's our turn as citizens to share our judgments about our President's conduct. And I'll read this to you, and then we'll offer a few closing words, and then ask you to rededicate yourself to the cause of justice, the cause of truth, the cause of security for the Armenian nation. So this is what we have. I'll read it to you. It seems President Obama will end his tenure as he began it, caving into pressure from Turkey and betraying his commitment to speak honestly about the Armenian Genocide. President Obama's unwillingness to reject Turkey's gag rule on the Armenian Genocide, or otherwise confront the growing regional wave of anti-Armenian aggression, particularly at a time when Ankara and Baku are placing targets on the backs of Armenians in Artsakh, in Armenia, across the Middle East and around the world, really represents something far worse than simply betrayal of his own commitments, his own promises. In fact, his reckless retreat from America's anti-genocide commitments, under pressure from Turkey and Azerbaijan, in the face of their open incitement, outright aggression, and other classic genocide red flags, emboldens Erdogan and Aliyev to escalate their hostility, raising the very real risk of large-scale anti-Armenian atrocities. This is a real danger, one that we're very mindful of. And instead of America, instead of the U.S. government, instead of President Obama sending the right signals, challenging Erdogan, pushing Aliyev to back off, they're being given the green light. When Armenians are killed on the front lines of Artsakh, when civilians are executed, when bodies are mutilated, when heads are decapitated, and the U.S. response is essentially calling upon all parties to refrain from violence, when they know very well it's Azerbaijan doing this. When allies of Erdogan publish full-page ads in American newspapers demonizing, inciting hatred against Armenians for simply being Armenian, right? When America remains silent in the face of that denial and that hatred and that incitement and the actions of Azerbaijan, the net result is these nations, Turkey and Azerbaijan, take that as a green light. They are emboldened, they are encouraged to continue on the path that they have stated publicly that they will pursue, which is to attack, to undermine, ultimately to destroy Armenia and Artsakh. This, sadly, is President Obama's legacy. Silence on the Armenian genocide, complicity in Turkey's denials, and effectively encouraging Azerbaijan's aggression. It's a sad legacy. It was, in many ways, it came full cycle today, which was essentially where we learned about the 8th opportunity for President Obama to speak honestly about the Armenian genocide, to reject Turkey's gag rule, to deny the veto that Turkey has for so long exercised here in Washington, D.C. Decisions about human rights, decisions about anything that we do as Americans should be made by Americans, not by Recep Erdogan, and we should never outsource our morality or our policy to any country, much less, in this case, a country that is so very at odds with our values as a people and our interests as a country. So I urge you to go to the ANCA website in the next 15, 20 minutes. I urge you to go to our website, follow the Armenian American newspaper. Certainly there'll be a lot of commentary on the subject, as well there should be. And what I would say is that, as always, we will persevere. We're not in any way discouraged by the failings of President Obama. They are ultimately his failings, not ours. They diminish his administration, not our standing. We will, though, turn to another branch of government, which is the U.S. Congress, and look for leadership there. On terms of challenging Azerbaijan's aggression, this administration has failed, in terribly so. But it's been Congress that has shown leadership, the Roy Sangel initiatives, and so many other efforts that have actually been constructive and contributed to peace in Nagorno-Karabakh have come out of the U.S. Congress. And I think that in this case as well, we're not going to, look to President Obama to do much on this issue. He's sent us his signal 8 times in a row. I think that we need to work with our friends in Congress. There's legislation. It's called HRES 154. It is a bill that talks about justice for the Armenian genocide, just international resolution of this crime, one that is absolutely necessary. If there's ever to be an improvement in Armenian-Turkish relations, it cannot be based upon Ankara's preferred path of burying the Armenian genocide issue, but rather it needs to be through resolving this crime against humanity, resolving it, dealing with it honestly, reckoning with it constructively. That represents the path forward. That's the path forward that we need to push. It turns out President Obama turned out not to be an ally in that effort. His time in office is drawing to a close. We turn to our friends in Congress, and hopefully the next administration will take a fresh look at the issue. I want to thank you again. Did want to get this out to you as soon as we got the information. Literally just walked in a short while ago from the White House. I do hope that you stay in touch. Please share your thoughts. Leave your comments here, or write to me at aram@anca.org, or as always, send suggestions to ideas@anca.org. Thank you very much.